What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Time DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande. Back at you. All-Star break is over. James, what's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Time DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande here. Back at you. I'm excited. I know you've been jonesing. I've been waiting at our subscriber chat. Everybody's trying all new sports. We're trying new things with the break was on. Worked out well for some. Didn't work well for others. I'm happy to be back to what we're familiar with here. NBA basketball in play, and we have a pretty good slate to kick us off.
Yeah, I am not one that dabbled in anything during break. I know you did. I took a full mental break off, preparing myself for this Thursday, this TNT slate, this six-gamer to bring you guys the best content possible. And I think I'm ready, and I think you're ready, even though you were losing all your money in all the other sports.
Yep, I watched half my roster crash on Daytona. That was awesome. Loved it. Played some hockey the other day. Didn't work out for me there either. But you know what? We're here for basketball. Basketball's where we're winning our money this year. So let's start off. I mean, like we said, you did the playbook today. You know everything's going on. Let's start off. We got injuries. We got game spreads, totals. What are we looking at here?
So all day we've kind of been waiting on this Miami news. Goran Dragic, Derek Jones Jr. Will they play? Will they not? We just got news that Dragic will unlikely play. We don't know about Jones Jr., but Dragic likely doesn't play. Ante Zizic starting, I found interesting just as a lineup note. Even with Kevin Love back, even with Larry Nance, they hate Larry Nance. Every team hates Larry Nance. Wherever Larry Nance goes, nobody's going to like him. No one's going to start him, even though he's better than the people they start in front of him. Yeah. So Larry Nance to the bench, Ante Zizic starting. Kevin Love will be monitored as well as David Nwaba. Tyler Johnson remains in the starting lineup even with the Anthony Melton back. Clint Capella's probable. Tristan Thompson's out. We should see the debut of Nikola Mirotic tonight. We don't know whether he's going to start, whether he's going to come off the bench, whether he's going to be limited. The biggest news is DeMarcus Cousins' minute restriction gone. They're obviously going to play off how he feels, and he hasn't played a ton of minutes, but we did see 27, 27, 28 the 3 games prior.
He was begging to play more minutes. Right. They just wouldn't. So unleashed DeMarcus Cousins.
I think there's going to be an unleash, but I think we can kind of tame our expectations. I do think maybe he hits 30, but it's going to be like 30, 31, not like the 35, 36 we were seeing in New Orleans last year. Enes Kanter is expected to make his debut tonight. We don't officially have the word, but he is expected to make the debut. Josh Hart's expected to play. Gordon Hayward, your boy, is doubtful. Tweaked his ankle in practice. Not the surgically repaired ankle though, which I guess is hindsight. That's good. Dame Lillard is going to play. He was questionable all day. And Amon Shumpert's out, and Rodney Hood is probable to play. When we go over to Vegas, every total is big. We have 219.5 is the lowest total on the board. That's the Miami Philly game that opens us up. And that's a great game. That's a great game, at least from one side of the ball that we want to attack. Phoenix, Cleveland, 221. Battle of the, trash cans. Cleveland, 1-point favorite at home. Pick'em, it's opened up as a pick'em. Portland is now 2.5-point favorites. 230.5 total in Portland, Brooklyn. I think that game's going to go vastly underappreciated. Boston, Milwaukee, 227, 5.5-point favorites for Milwaukee. Houston, Lakers, 233. Houston, 3-point favorites on the road. And then the other late night hammer, Sacramento, Golden State. It went up to 240 earlier in the day. It's now back to 238.5. 12.5-point spread in favor of Golden State.
Yeah, a lot of high totals, like you said. James, before we kick it off here, as usual, let's give out a little read here. The NBA package is discounted, and we want you to win. As you might have seen on Twitter, our team and customers are crushing NBA DFS. That's why we're thrilled to have it back. With the NBA Playbook Pro helping win with all late changes, you can get a huge advantage in contests on all DFS sites. Starting today, the NBA package has been lowered to just $47. You will get coverage analysis tools for 5 more months. Go to fantasylive.com/NBA season now. At checkout, use my name at the promo code Impemba, IMPEMBA. Use Grande if you want. You can use Pimentel if you want. Use the whole DFS team. Use our last name. You get an additional 25% off. That's fantasylive.com/NBA season. Promo code Impemba for myself. Again, use any of our last names here on the DFS NBA team. 25% off that. Just a great deal. again, $47, and then you get another 25% off there. It's free, and you can win all of that money back in one night the way we've been trending lately, James, huh?
I can't believe we're giving away these good. You know what? If you don't capitalize on this,
right?
I don't know what to tell you, honestly.
I mean, hopefully all of these members are already subscribers for life with the for life subscription we gave out. And if you didn't buy that, maybe you bought the year's worth of NBA DFS content that we gave around like New Year's. We've been giving out deals like crazy. Now's the time. Jump in for the rest of the NBA season for $50. That's two tournaments, two DFS contests. So let's get that going. James, like you said, 6 games though. Let's kick it off. Start off position by position at the point guard spot here. Damian Lillard ruled in against Brooklyn. We were kind of maybe hoping he wouldn't play so we can get that CJ McCollum exposure. Didn't really happen, but really great spot here against Brooklyn for him. He's at the top pricing list at FanDuel. Kyrie Irving's below him. Steph Curry's there. All those 3 guys are over $9,000 on FanDuel. Thoughts on that top 3 tier there?
So I think Lillard is firmly in play, DraftKings only, though. I'm not spending $10K for Damian Lillard when we can go down and spend on Curry, Irving, and even further down Ben Simmons. It's just not paying $10K for Lillard. DK play only. Very good play, though. 5 of his last 6 over 45 fantasy points on DraftKings. So I think DraftKings all formats. I think Steph Curry tournaments only. He's projected to be one of the highest owned players, and I get it. And, we kind of had the back and forth last night on the podcast, like, what's going to happen when DeMarcus Cousins is fully unleashed? We don't know. Nobody knows. But we do know he's still Steph Curry. Ultimately, he's still Steph Curry. Sacramento is still terrible at defending point guards. They're terrible at defending.
Still the point guard over
right. So firmly in play. And then Kyrie Irving, I think he's probably the lesser owned of all of the top tier, and I'll even throw Ben Simmons in there because Simmons is going to be very popular tonight, very chalky, considering no Joel Embiid. Right. And I think that's a mistake because we know that he just shows up in big games. So I think they're all in play for tournaments. I would play Lillard and cash on DK. I would probably then move down next cash game play to Ben Simmons. All formats. Last 2 games without Joel Embiid, triple-double. So
maybe one of the biggest pricing discrepancies from site to site tonight is probably Lillard. He is 10-1 on FanDuel when he dumps all the way down to $8,600.
Yeah, that's crazy.
$1,500 discount on DraftKings there. Still a great matchup, and like you said, Irving and Curry, you got to save a couple $100 across sites, but big discount there on Lillard. Decent discount again on Ben Simmons, as you said. I definitely like that. Getting exposure to the other late night game, as we said, Houston, LA. I'm liking Chris Paul here. Chris Paul's played really well heading into the All-Star break. He had a bunch of games in upper 30s to 40 fantasy points. The minutes are all there. He looks healthy and playing some of his best basketball. And again, we're expecting another game here. High game total should be a competitive matchup with just the 3-point spread, 233 game total against Rajon Rondo. I mean, I'm in on Chris Paul at his cost tonight as well.
So I'm interested to see if we do get Rondo because the Lakers have started their big lineup. The last 2 games they've started LeBron. So I'm interested to see if we see Reggie Bullock or if we see Brandon Ingram defense, which I'm not saying is like all worldly, but the height could be a little issue for Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul's a big point guard, 6'4", but Ingram's 6'7", and Bullock is 6'5", 6'6", so I wonder if that would play an impact on Chris Paul at all. But we've seen Chris Paul throughout the years be fine against.
Yeah, and he's not really an elite scorer at this point anyways. He takes 10, 11, 12 shots a game. The majority of them are three-pointers, when James Harden's probably kicking out or something of the like. So I'm not too worried about really just the on-ball defense that he's going to face. I just like the fact that he's giving us rebounds, he's giving us assists, he's giving us those steals that we've seen him do in the past. So, and the scoring has obviously been there too. He's averaging probably around 15 or 16 points a game now since coming back. So, again, Chris Paul, good price tag for me there. If we go a little bit further down, again, looking at some FanDuel pricing, you have De'Aaron Fox on the opposite side of that game against Golden State. If we think that's going to be a track meet, I know the 12.5 point spread is there, and that can be a little bit scary, but we looked at game logs, and again, granted, no DeMarcus Cousins in those games, but the 3 games they played this year, there's never been a lead or a total between the two of more than 5 points. So we've seen 3 competitive games between the Kings and Warriors. The Kings are vastly improved. They didn't have Cousins in those games for Golden State, but Bagley wasn't playing for Sacramento in some of those games. They didn't have Harrison Barnes. They didn't have Alec Burks. So I think this game could be a little bit closer than what we're anticipating. And again, if you want to get exposure, $7,000 for De'Aaron Fox, it's pretty cheap exposure to that game.
Yeah, we want the tournament exposure here. We mentioned it last night where it's going to be hard to fit a lot of pieces in cash games, outside of DeMarcus Cousins on DraftKings, which I think is pretty much a lock. At least for me, that's like my lock of the night. But you want pieces in this game, and the way to do it is you get tournaments. De'Aaron Fox is the contrarian play to Steph Curry because everyone's going to play Curry in this game if they do play point guard here. And we've seen Fox with 60-point upside before. I mean, he's gone for 70 twice this year. So I do think he's firmly in play. And also, there's not a lot to love in this mid-tier. Like, you can play Eric Bledsoe if you want. I don't love it against the Celtics defense. Game stack
only, I think.
Yeah, Rajon Rondo, yes, like he is national TV Rondo, but there's a lot of flaws. I mean, we saw, one of the games that he didn't start, yes, they got blown out, but he only played 16 minutes. Next game he played 34, sure. But if LeBron is going into this playoff mode that he came out and said he was going into today, do they need Rondo on the floor when they have LeBron? I don't know. So,
I think they could benefit from having a guy like Rondo on the floor in terms of just his playmaking ability. But for what you're saying, I kind of agree with. There's obviously the chance that things don't go right and he sits on the bench. But I'm not too worried. I think we're going to see Rondo still play the majority of minutes at point guard, even if he's not necessarily starting. Again, GPPs only, though. You don't need to throw him in cash. Game stacking, Houston, LA, I think is going to be super popular tonight. So I think Rondo at $60 to $100 on FanDuel and his DraftKings price tag, we have him over at $5,800. So
5,800. Yep.
Yeah, not a terrible spot there. I'm in on Colin Sexton tonight. He's going to be in the starting video tonight. The minutes are there. He's playing, pretty much over 34 minutes a game now for 10 straight games. The scoring's been there, averaging 17.5 actual points per game during that stretch. They don't really have much behind them. I know Delladova's there and whatnot, and they're going to go to Sexton the second half of this season, in my opinion. We've seen the production and a really good matchup here against Phoenix. So you have Sexton at $5,500. I really like. And then Tyler Johnson's going to be starting again tonight. I know DeAnthony Melton's back with the team and active and whatnot, but I mean, Johnson's averaging 28 fantasy points against Cleveland this season. Maybe there's another value play there. $4,400 on FanDuel isn't the worst price tag for a guy, and $4,200 on DraftKings that they traded for. So Tyler Johnson, another cheapie, I think, at point guard.
Yeah, I really think those are the only two real legitimate options under 5K or under 5.5. Sexton, all formats, considering 4 of the last 5 games, he scored 20 or more actual points. Plus, you mentioned he is going. There's no reason for Cleveland not to play him all the minutes. They drafted him in the lottery for a reason. He was a lottery pick for a reason. They are trying to tank, so why not just let your guys develop? So, which is going to be Colin Sexton. And like you said, Tyler Johnson is going to play minutes because he's the guy they traded for to be their starting point guard, at least for the remainder of this season. Plus, not to mention, he has a big contract. Yeah. I don't remember what the split is between, if Miami took on part of that deal or if Phoenix took on all that money, because he didn't come cheap. Miami paid him a hefty sum of money.
It was a pretty decent swap, though. They took on Ryan Anderson's contract, I think.
Ryan Anderson, right.
Yeah, so I think it was a money. The money made sense there, but yeah, he's not cheap. And the one thing I do like about Johnson here, he's shooting miserably. He's 6 for 27 since joining them. He's not that bad of a shooter. So I think those shots are going to come around. Love that he's taking the shots just in general to go with the minutes. Right. So eventually those things are going to improve. And what better team to prove against than Cleveland? So coming out of the so I think that's there. And I'll always throw my boy TJ McConnell out there just as a tournament play value option. No Embiid. They could go smaller. Put McConnell on the floor to play point guard a little bit more. Always a possibility in these scenarios that happens. Let's kind of over to shooting guard. James Harden's at the top there. You love James Harden tonight. I think you said on the podcast he's your number one play tonight.
DraftKings. You sold me on FanDuel to pivot to either small forward, a.k.a. LeBron, or because of position scarcity. And when I was building my lines, it you were right, because you literally, if you don't have Giannis or Durant or LeBron in your lineup, it's ugly. It is ugly. So DraftKings definitely Harden. 11-6 is too cheap, and he's averaging 74 freaking fantasy points against this team in 3 meetings. Not just one, not just two, 3 times they have squared off, and he's still averaging 74.
That's because the Lakers are allowing the most fantasy points to shooting guards. We've been saying it forever. Hard to fade. I know before we jumped on the live stream today, I did say that I was actually fading. I was going the Giannis route tonight against Boston purely for ownerships. It's not, and you get the $1,000-ish salary relief. But again, we're never going to not tell you to play a guy like James Harden. Play him as much as you want, as often as you want. It's very rare that he lets us down. Even when he, quote unquote, misses value, he's still putting up 55 to 60 points. So yeah, lock and load, that's totally okay with me. I love D'Angelo Russell. I know on FanDuel he's priced up to $9,200, and that's a little bit tougher pill to swallow for sure. $8,200 in DraftKings is a better spot, but we do like this matchup against Portland. Karis LeVert returning maybe takes away a little bit, because LeVert is another guy with pretty high usage rate when on the floor. Played 30 minutes the other day in that overtime game against Cleveland. But I mean, in that game, D'Angelo Russell had himself quite a night too. 55 fantasy points, 36 actual. I don't see those two really taking away from each other. I just think that they just become more of the offense. So I'm still okay with paying for Russell, but like you said on the podcast, and I definitely am coming more around to that, I think it makes much more sense on DraftKings and FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, you could just save on FanDuel. You could save $1,000, and you go to Jimmy Butler, who is averaging a fantasy point or 1.2 fantasy points per minute without Joel Embiid on the floor. Or you just go to Devin Booker for an even contrarian pivot who has 40 to 50 actual point upside. So, as much as I love Russell, and I do, he's just better on DraftKings. It's like the Damian Lillard thing. They're just too priced on FanDuel, and you get the savings on DraftKings. Plus, D'Angelo Russell shoots a lot of threes, get a nice 3-point bonus on DK. I mean, he just fits the builds better on draft. But Jimmy Butler's only 7,200 on DK too, so it's like,
yeah, and I mean, one of the rules I always, prior to the trade of Tobias Harris, it was when Embiid was out, you played Butler, because Butler's price was usually depressed, sort of like it is on DraftKings now, because when Embiid's healthy, they sort of all take away from each other. So when one of those three is out, it just boosts the value and everybody, and Butler was always the beneficiary of that. I don't know. I still am going to play Butler tonight in some lineups because that cost is just too cheap. I do wonder with Tobias Harris being there, again, if no Embiid, if those shots get spread around, maybe they go a little bit more to Tobias Harris. And, it's something to worry about. Adding that extra score, that extra, legitimate scoring threat that's not a Wilson Chandler, who's just sitting there and clapping his hands for the ball maybe, or not even doing that much. I think it's a little bit more of a risk. But like you said, he needs 35, 36 fantasy points in DraftKings, something that should be very doable without Embiid on the floor. So I'm with you there. A little bit further down, I still think McConnell's okay. McCollum, rather. I still think he's okay. He's playing really well for a while there, even with, Lillard on the floor. Yeah, that's kind of tailed off a little bit. The matchup against Golden State, only 25 minutes in that one. Against OKC, tougher matchup, 25 fantasy points there. But, Portland, I still think against Brooklyn, it's still a matchup. You can play McCollum, $6,400 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, McCollum's priced out at 66. What are your thoughts there?
I don't hate it. I'm just going to primarily live in that tier right above him for most of my lineups if I'm not paying for Harden, or I'm just going to go down. You can play Oubre on DraftKings at 58 at shooting guard. You can play Jordan Clarkson at 57, who's way too pricey on FanDuel.
Way too pricey, yeah.
Way too pricey. You now have the option to play Jaylen Brown, who's only $4,700, and there's Gordon Hayward officially ruled out. So, Jaylen Brown's the only Celtic that really gets a big bump in usage and in fantasy points per minute. So Jaylen Brown, and then on FanDuel at least, Karis LeVert, 5,800. Yep. There shouldn't be a minutes limit. I don't know. They haven't announced it.
30. So I'm okay with 30 if that's what they're going to do there. Again, this is a guy that has a 28% usage rate. I think I saw today.
Yep.
When he's on the floor, averaging over a fantasy point per minute. Yep. He was as priced high as $7,200 that I saw on DraftKings. And he's what, 51, 52?
$5,100.
So we're talking about times where you need to attack price points. This is one of them. Even this 5x is 25 fantasy points on DraftKings. That's fine. Even if he lets us down tonight, like it was still the right play because of what we know what his upside can be and what we just saw out of him the other night. Almost had a triple double in those 30 minutes too. It was like a rebound off, a couple assists off. So I'm in on Caris LeVert. You and I were big fans of his before that ankle injury. We knew it was going to be kind of a breakout year, so in on him. I also like Chris Middleton tonight. He's a guy that just absolutely murders the Celtics every time that they play him. I don't know what it is. They just can't. He just shoots the lights out against them. So he's averaging 38 fantasy points in the 2 games against them this season. If we think this is going to be a close back and forth game, high scoring, Middleton's a guy that's undamaged, and I think you can throw him in your lineups there in GPPs just for the high scoring output. And we just got word that Mirotic is on a minutes limit tonight, so that could also be a benefit for the rest of the Bucks, knowing that maybe Mirotic plays 15 minutes, 20 minutes tonight.
You could probably make a case for Middleton in cash too. 6,200 is far too cheap. Buddy Hield, also a guy above him that I'm firmly in on in tournaments. I think the whole Kings team just tournament play. It's like I wrote last week when the Warriors were on the slate. I just put everyone's in tournament play. That's the same thing I feel about the Kings tonight. Everyone's in tournaments. Bogdan is too cheap. Tournament play. Buddy Hield, honestly, probably too cheap for what he's done against the Warriors this year. Tournament play. 29 actual points in 3 meetings against them. That last game, he went off for like 36, 37 actual points. So I think Hield is firmly in play for tournaments as well.
We just got Dragic isn't going to play tonight. So we have Waiters in GPPs and Wade in cash, I assume, is pretty much the way we've gone pretty much all season long. How are you feeling about them tonight against Philadelphia?
I think I prefer Wade, who's cheaper. And he's just been
$200 on FanDuel. Was there a big price difference on draft?
No, there's not a big discrepancy. It's only $300, but he's only $4,300 on DK. I don't know. I just almost would rather play Jaylen Brown than both of them, though.
That's fair. I may lean Waiters a little bit more because he's starting. At least I saw that he was starting, or he had been starting.
He has been. There's no official Heat lineup, but he has been starting. So
he actually did. The lineup is Winslow, Waiters, Richardson, Olynyk at power forward, and Whiteside. Derek Jones Jr. also active tonight. So
they're starting Olynyk over James Johnson.
Yeah, and Derek Jones Jr. is active tonight. So whatever that is worth considering. But knowing that Waiters is starting and knowing the offensive output that he kind of brings to the table, $5,300, I'm fine. Last 4 games, 31, 41, 30, 30 for minutes. Done that 36, 22, 31 fantasy points the last 3. So, classic GPP player. So works for me. Love the Brown call. We talked about Bullock a little bit. I think you can certainly go back to Reggie Bullock. The minutes would certainly be there. Anybody else below them? Alan Crabb sort of been playing some minutes of late back in their rotation. He's been over 20 fantasy points now in 3 straight games. Nah.
He's okay. Like if you have that much money, he's the last piece to your build. It's like a FanDuel drop. I don't mind it.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on over to small forward where the talk is Giannis, LeBron, Durant. Durant's averaging 60 fantasy points to 2 games against Sacramento. You're on LeBron. He's going to come back and play, you said, like playoff mode LeBron James or something like.
Yeah, he came out and said it's his playoff mode. He hates it, but it's, quote, activated, end quote. He said it's activated. He doesn't want the
Lakers to miss the playoffs, so I don't blame you there. Then Giannis obviously at the top at 12-4 on FanDuel. I think, honestly, everybody's playing LeBron James tonight. Yep. I just think that's just the way that we're going to see a lot of people go.
Yep.
Again, I like Giannis a lot tonight, sort of as a pivot. The Celtics, even when they play good defense against him, he still puts up 55, 60 fantasy points. He's gone for 60 fantasy points now in like 5 or 6 straight games for Giannis, and he went into the All-Star break with an 80 fantasy point game against the Pacers. So Giannis is peaking. I think this is a good spot for him here against Boston. First game out of the break, competitive game. So I like the pivot of Giannis. I don't think anybody's going to play him, so ownership-wise. But, it is difficult to fade LeBron in this matchup against Houston for sure. And then Durant, I think, is another GPP pivot where you can save a little bit of cash and, you get exposure to that late-night game there and that high total against Sacramento.
I mean, the one thing about Giannis against Boston in his 2 meetings, he has only grabbed only 9.5 rebounds, but it's a guy who's averaged close to 13 on the year, and he only has dished out 3.5 assists, a guy who's averaged 6 on the year. So, like, if those numbers, climb up to what he's averaged on the year, we're clearly looking at 60. This is 60, 65, 70 fantasy point out.
He's averaging over 30 actual scoring points.
Right.
So there's no Aaron Baines. So like you think about rebounding off the bench for Boston, like that doesn't exist. It's going to be Daniel Tice, undersized center, Robert Williams, who probably won't see much of the floor anyway. So it's really Al Horford, the one that's keeping him off the glass. And Horford's a pretty legitimate defender. I mean, he's pretty much done it forever now. So sure, there's some reason to be hesitant there, but I just feel like coming out of the break, they're going to look to establish, a presence here at home. And I think, Giannis, again, they can't stop him scoring, like you said, to get some additional secondary stats. Huge numbers tonight for him.
Just knowing that they haven't won a playoff series, knowing that this could be like a potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup, knowing Milwaukee wants to secure that 1 seed, I think Giannis comes out. I think it's going to be a crazy atmosphere in Milwaukee tonight, and I think Giannis feeds off that and has a big night. So, I would still
wonder how many times anybody's ever said it's going to be a crazy atmosphere in Milwaukee.
Hey, I heard some crazy things about Milwaukee today about the money that they'll have this offseason. Yeah. And I'm just saying, don't be surprised if another
two max deals.
They can have one, but they don't need 2 max deals when they already have Giannis there.
True. As we alluded to, after that, it's. I mean, there are players, but Kelly Oubre, sure, against Cleveland, has been playing really well. No T.J. Warren, fine, you can go there. Josh Richardson against Philadelphia, sure, again, nice little play. He's been solid for us all year long. Brendan Ingram helped to get exposure to that Houston Lakers game, and he's been playing decent as well. But no one's really jumping off the page for me here. None of these guys are exciting. I think on FanDuel you probably spend up and then spend down. You go play Joe Harris or you like Steady Osman. I like Mikal Bridges, something like that, and take a chance there.
So I think on DraftKings, you just go right down to Joe Harris, $4,300. I think that's a terrible missed price. I think Joe Harris, he came in excellent form. He shot the lights out, showed everyone what he's capable of at the All-Star break. I also think you just go right to Mikal Bridges at $4,600. So I think Bridges, Harris, and Seti Osman are the 3 plays, honestly, after. And then, obviously, if you're playing DK, you're playing Karis LeVert at point guard or small forward because he's not shooting guard. But I think those are the 4 guys, plus Oubre on DraftKings. I'm not playing him at $6,900 on FanDuel, but $5,800 on DK for a guy who's had a lot of upside. He gave us 50 against Golden State not too long ago. But I just prefer Bridges, who's going to play 40 minutes. I prefer Harris, who's going to play 30 minutes and shoot, give us 4 or 5 threes and a couple peripherals. Even Harrison Barnes, $4,700 on DraftKings, coming off his best game as a King, 19-11, 4-2. Plus, you mentioned last night on the podcast, it's a revenge game, another guy. So I'm kind of skipping on this middle tier, and I'm going right down to this sub 5K tier, and that's really where I want to allocate my funds.
Yeah, I agree. It's different. More we talk uninspiring more on FanDuel. Obviously, in DraftKings, there's so many different options you can go at small forward because of the eligibility. So get creative if you can. On FanDuel. Yeah, I think Harris is pretty safe. Again, we like Bridges and maybe Jake Layman in a GBP as well. Going over to power forward, Larry Nance at the top. I saw you in subscriber chat talking about it, and you said it also. They don't really like Nance, and he's too expensive tonight. So $7,500, really hard to play him. Even though we love the matchup here against Phoenix, I just don't know how we trust him. Knowing that Love could come back, and they say he's limited, but I don't know. Does limited get bumped up to 15 or 20 minutes tonight? And Nance played 32 minutes against Brooklyn. He's got double-digit rebounds in 8 straight games. So the production's been there. But do you want to pay $7,500 for him on FanDuel?
No, I don't.
I feel the same way. So, I think it's just sort of interesting. This power forward position tonight because again,
it also stinks. It stinks.
There are some plays, you can go Jason Tatum. I love Kyle Kuzma. I think Kyle Kuzma is going to be probably in all of the lineups that I built tonight. At $6,600 on FanDuel, and he's even cheaper, I think, over on DraftKings when I saw
59,
it.
yeah, 5,900.
And I mean, you look at the 3 games against Houston this year, 38 fantasy points. So lock and load. I think Kyle Kuzma probably going to be very chalky though.
I think Kuzma and Tatum at 5,900 are both very hard to ignore. I think you can play them both in cash. I think I would definitely play Jason Tatum in cash on DraftKings. I actually prefer Kuzma on FanDuel, and I prefer Tatum on DraftKings. How about that? Even though they're the same price on DK, Kuzma's $400 cheaper on FanDuel.
Yeah.
He just fits builds better on FanDuel than Tatum. So I prefer Tatum on DraftKings and Kuzma on FanDuel.
Yeah, I won't argue. I won't really argue with you there. We can't play Love, right? I mean, he played 15 minutes against the Knicks, 24 fantasy points, but 5,700 on FanDuel. Unless we knew he was playing 25 minutes, probably still need to X him out. Bagley at 5,700, Marcus Morris at 52, Josh Jackson 58. Thoughts on those 3?
Bagley for tournaments. I think Morris fits in all formats on FanDuel the best because power forward's so weak and you need to play 2 of them. So I would lean Morris on FanDuel. I think Jackson's fine. He's going to keep playing minutes. I mean, nobody on Phoenix really played minutes in that Clippers game because they got blown out. So I think we could just cross that one off. I mean, we said that about Bridges on the podcast last night. So I think Jackson's fine. I like all 3 of them. Bagley for tournaments, Jackson probably for all formats, and Morris for all formats on FanDuel. 4,800 on DK is fine, but there are just better options.
Are you on the Marquise Chris train again?
No. Someone asked in our chat about him, and I just think it's weird that they're starting Ante Zizic still, even though Larry Nance, now there's Nance, Love, and Zizic. Love's minutes got bumped up to 15. Maybe it's 20 this time, which then takes away 5 minutes from Chris. Right. Also, you can always slide Cedi Osman to power forward. He's done that plenty of times this year. So with Cedi Osman's minutes going from 25 to presumably, way more because he's not on a limit anymore. How many minutes does it take away Chris? So I don't think we need to go there. If you're making 150 lineups, throw him in a couple. But other than that, if you're building 1 or 2, you're not playing Marquise Chris.
How about PJ Tucker tonight?
He's been good against the Lakers. But does Kenneth Faried, I'm interested also, does Kenneth Faried play alongside Clint Capella? I don't know. I think Tucker doesn't lose minutes because he's one of the best defenders in basketball, and he's going to defend LeBron probably for 48 minutes.
That's how I was looking at it, yeah.
So, I mean, you can. He's very cheap, 3,900. It's just with Paul, and it's different with Chris Paul back because now there are less shots for PJ Tucker, and he's already a stand-in-the-corner guy. So, when Chris Paul is out, I think he's really solid. But with Chris Paul back, it's just that production hasn't been there for me. So, you can do it, but I'm not, rushing him into my lineups.
All right. Last guy I'll probably just throw out there because I always do is Rashawn Holmes and GBPs. $3,700 gets that matchup against Cleveland. If he plays 18 or so minutes, we know his upside can get you there. So, again, just a throwaway GBP dart for me. Any dart throws for power forward for you?
Kelly O starting?
Yeah, I don't mind that he's starting. I just think with Derek Jones being back, it worries me a little bit. I
think it's weird. They have 4 guys that they could play.
Right. So, I don't know. And he's kind of been trending back down a little bit in terms of production after he had that really strong stretch. So, maybe again, possibly. But let's go to center, finish this off here. Embiid's out. Capella is probably
starting. Boban's starting. Officially starting.
I don't know how many minutes he's going to play, though. I mean, he never plays.
20. If Boban gives us 20 minutes, I think he's a must-play. Lock it in if he gives us 20. 20.
Has he played 20 minutes at all this year?
Yes. When he was starting for the Clippers a couple times, he played 20 minutes.
All right.
But...
all right, that's fine. I mean, he's $3,800 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, Boban is priced out at $3,500. So, yeah, that's fine. Whiteside's starting too, but I mean, sure, you can go Boban. It's hard to argue with his fantasy point per minute production there. So,
you want to hear the games? You want to hear the 20+ minute games?
Sure.
23 minutes against Philly, 15, 11, 3 blocks, 1 assist, 1 steal. 23 minutes against Orlando the next day. So back-to-back 23-point game or 23-minute outings, 10 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists.
10 points what?
11 rebounds, 2 assists.
Okay, that's not bad.
So back-to-back double-doubles.
So on DraftKings, you can play Boban and play DeMarcus Cousins, who we both want to play anyways.
Right.
So, we'll just skim down to Capella. If we don't find out there's a minutes limit, I don't mind spending up for him tonight. It's a really strong matchup for him against the Lakers. We love centers against the Nets, but I don't know if Kanter and Nurkic are going to split time playing 20 minutes each. So I'm definitely not paying up for Nurkic. I have some interest in Kanter, knowing that he's expected to make his debut. Obviously in GPPs only. I just know the damage he can do when he gets on the floor in limited minutes against the Nets. We've seen it before. Horford against Milwaukee is fine, but Cousins at $7,600 on DraftKings and $6,100 or $6,100 on DraftKings and $76 on FanDuel. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. They said he's moved on to the next phase of his recovery. He's already playing 28 minutes anyways. I have to think we're seeing 30-plus minutes out of Cousins tonight. And we want that exposure. Get it now because, again, this is a player that, by the end of the month, by mid, we'll say, March could be
10K.
10, 12K. So play him now, man. Like we said, attack price points when you have the opportunity because it's just the value's there.
Yeah, he's lock and load. I have the two guys I actually have in every lineup are Colin Sexton and DeMarcus Cousins. But that's on DraftKings at least. I do like DeAndre Ayton against Cleveland tonight. I think no Tristan Thompson creates a big problem for them in terms of rebounding. I know Zizic is a pretty good rebounder, but Ayton's a bully, 11 rebounds per game on the year. And then I do have some interest again in Cauley-Stein, 4,900, just tournament play. It's just...
I worry about the minutes with him. They've been down.
I do too. I just think they need... it was a debate we had last night on the pod. It's I just think he is a lankier defender that would give Cousins more problems than Marvin Bagley, who's, yes, 6'10", and I know, we did the weight comparison and Cauley-Stein only had a couple pounds on him, but Bagley's not the shot blocker, not the defender that Cauley-Stein is, at least not yet. So I think he's needed on the floor for at least 30 minutes.
All right. And then obviously Boban we just talked about. So any other centers you're looking at here?
No, that's it.
Alrighty, well, guys, we're in subscriber chat answering any questions. Get us in there. Roster lock is coming quick. We're back.
We are back, baby.
All right, we'll catch you. Good luck, everybody.